Chapter 5767. As everyone walked towards the light, they realized that the path was much longer than they had imagined. The beam of light looked very close, but it was very far away. As everyone got closer, the sound of the zither became clearer. Most importantly, as they moved forward, the area became wider and wider. The place they were in before was like an underground cave. It was simple and plain, and it carried the power of nature. However, the place they were in now was obviously man-made. The further they went, the more magnificent the environment became. It was like a palace, bright and dazzling and extraordinarily gorgeous. Standing here, everyone even suspected that everything they had seen before was an illusion. How could there be such a huge difference between the two places? What is this place? Jiang Wenyan was stunned. Could this be the world under the lake? Everyone looked at each other. No one could find the answer. Although this was the easiest answer, the lake was obviously not as big as this underground place. The decorations here are extremely luxurious. In addition to the whirlpool from before, I don't know anything else. The only thing I can be sure of is that the owner of this place must be very powerful. Following Bailey Hongzhuang's words, everyone looked at each other. This was also what they were most worried about. Sister, don't worry. Maybe we can find the mysterious inheritance here. Bai Lianche smiled faintly and eased the tense atmosphere. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly and said with a smile, "What you said is also possible." Previously, when they were in the mystery realm, didn't they also find the inheritance under such circumstances? The cultivators here were very likely from the celestial realm. Then the inheritance was even more impressive. Jun Lingxuan and Xiao Suo quietly looked at each other. If the inheritance really existed, then no matter what, they couldn't let Bailey Hongzhuang and the others take it away. Following the sound of the zither, everyone finally saw a graceful figure in the spacious hall. They saw a woman with skin as white as snow, wearing a red dress. Her long hair was like a waterfall, soft like black satin. The red hair accessories added even more radiance to her. Her exquisite features were impeccable. Every frown and smile moved people's souls. What a beautiful woman! Everyone could not help but sigh in their hearts. Bailey Hongzhuang and Linger who were present were also extremely beautiful. Bailey Hongzhuang could be said to be able to captivate the birds and beasts, overshadowing the moon and putting the flowers to shame. Her beauty was confident and flamboyant, and her delicate facial features were like that of a fairy, revealing a trace of heroic spirit, making her unforgettable. Linger's beauty, on the other hand, carried a sense of alienation and indifference. It was a kind of ethereal beauty, just like a cold beauty. The woman in front of him was beautiful and flirtatious, like an enchantress. Her fox-like eyes were curled into a charming arc, and her fiery figure was without a doubt. The fair skin on her chest, coupled with her bright red dress, made her look even more charming and alluring. However, at this moment, there was a trace of sadness on her face as she played the zither. She seemed to have endless longing and wanted to share her feelings with her lover. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang and the others appear, the woman stopped playing the zither, and a look of joy appeared on her face. With that smile, everything around him seemed to have lost its luster. "Sir, you're here." Her soft and gentle voice made one's heart go soft. Perhaps it was the best description of a person like her. Even her voice was extremely seductive. Chapter 5768. Everyone was so engrossed in the woman's beauty that they ignored her words. After regaining their senses, everyone felt that it was very strange. Her husband, who was her husband among the people present, Xiao Suo subconsciously moved closer to Jun Lingxuan. This woman was obviously a vixen. She could not let Jun Lingxuan be seduced by her. However, when faced with such a woman, even a woman could not help but take a few more glances, let alone a man. The woman's smile was like a flower. Her peach blossom eyes were upturned like a lazy cat. Her eyes exuded endless charm. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the woman who had suddenly appeared. After a brief moment of amazement, she regained her senses. It was indeed strange for such a seductive woman to appear in such a secluded place. Moreover, this person had addressed one of the men present as her husband. It was as if she had seen her long-awaited sweetheart. However, this was the first time all of them had come here. It was impossible for them to know this woman. I feel that this situation is a little strange. Let's think of a way to leave this place quickly, Bailey Hongzhuang said. However, after saying this, Bailey Hongzhuang realized that no one responded to her. She could not help but turn her eyes. However, she found that Bewitching, by Li Yanche, Jiang Wenyin and Jun Lingxuan were all staring at the figure in front of them. It was as if they had not heard her at all. Hongzhuang, they seemed to have entered an illusion? Linger sized up the reactions of the four people. The expressions on their faces were almost exactly the same. If this was under normal circumstances, it would be impossible. Bailey Hongzhuang's heart sank. She looked carefully and nodded. Indeed. Look, that woman has also disappeared. Xiao Shou exclaimed. The woman who had been standing not far away a moment ago had suddenly disappeared. There is indeed something strange here. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned. I wonder why this illusion has appeared. Obviously, this was an environment that only men would fall into. The three women were not affected at all. Could this be a test? Linger pondered. Perhaps the owner of this place only wants to choose a man to be his successor. Although this kind of situation was rare, it was not impossible. Generally speaking, if the owner of the ruins was a man, he would prefer to find a man to be his inheritor. If it was a woman, she would prefer to find a woman to be her inheritor. However, the tests that everyone usually came into contact with were basically equal. It was really rare to see a situation where they were directly excluded from the start. Perhaps, Bailey Hongzhuang felt that something was wrong, but she couldn't figure out what it was. Xiao Shou just looked at Jun Lingxuan. The current situation was a little awkward for her. Bailey Hongzhuang and Linger could still talk, but she couldn't even get a word in. I wonder who will pass the test. Linger's gaze unconsciously fell on by Li Yanche. Even if they did not enter this illusion, they could roughly guess the content of the environment from the expressions on everyone's faces. This must be a dream full of romantic encounters. A fiery, passionate, and charming beauty took the initiative to throw herself into his arms. Just by thinking about it, one could understand the scene. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Bewitching. If he could find himself in this illusion, she believed that Bewitching could resist this temptation. Chapter 5769. Beichen. Bailey Hongzhuang tried to wake Bewitching up. Generally speaking, if one was trapped in such an illusion for a long time, it would not end well. If possible, it would be better to leave as soon as possible. Beichen, wake up. However, no matter how Bailey Hongzhuang called out to Bewitching, he was still trapped in the dream and could not leave at all. Bailey Hongzhuang sighed inwardly. She did not find it strange. She had guessed that it would not be so simple, but she still wanted to try. Illusions were often very realistic, making it impossible for people to realize that they were in an illusion. If one could not see through it on their own, or if the outside world destroyed it, it would be impossible to leave. Just the illusions set up by the powerhouses of the upper realm were already very difficult to break through, let alone the illusions set up by the powerhouses of the immortal domain. It seemed that it would be very difficult for everyone to leave this illusion. Ordinary men are not willing to wake up from this illusion. It's useless even if you call out. Xiao Shou curled her lips. Do you think Bewitching is really that sincere to you? You can tell at a time like this. Beichen is sincere to Hongzhuang. Don't try to sow discord here. Linger said coldly. Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at Xiao Shou. It seems that you know men quite well. Do you think Jun Lingxuan can't pass this test? Ordinary men are like that. Xiao Shou's expression was calm. As long as a man is capable, having 3 wives and 4 concubines is not a small number. How many men would reject this kind of throwing oneself into their arms? Among the men here, I'm afraid that no one can escape. Looking at Xiao Shou's expression, which seemed to have seen through everything, Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but shake her head. In her eyes, love was the most loyal thing in the world. She understood that Xiao Shou's situation was the majority, but she did not want to be part of this majority. She believed that Beichen also understood this point. Even if what you said makes a lot of sense, I still believe that Beichen wouldn't. Xiao Shou looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. She could feel the strong confidence emanating from the latter. and the smile on her lips was inexplicably dazzling. She did not understand how Bailey Hongzhuang could still be so confident at this time. At least she didn't. Then just wait and see. The truth will tell you everything. Xiao Suo sneered. She had seen too many situations like this in her family. Every woman thought that they could obtain the one and only love, but it turned out to be nothing more than their own fantasy. Of course, there were also some men who did not marry anyone else. That was because their conditions were not as good as that of the first wife, so they did not have the courage. Even if it was Jun Lingxuan, she could not guarantee that he would not have a concubine in the future. Bailey Hongzhuang and Ling looked at each other and did not say anything about this situation. Xiao Suo had already believed that it was normal for men to have multiple wives. This was already a kind of tragedy, and it was useless to say anything more. Just when the three of them were waiting for the four to come out of the illusion, the four suddenly moved. They saw the four of them walking forward together. The expressions on their faces were still somewhat similar, but it could be vaguely seen that there were some differences. They haven't come out of the illusion yet. Let's follow them and see what they're going to do, Bailey Hongzhuang said as she followed them. As the four of them gradually moved forward, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others also saw the situation here clearly. Chapter 5770. Bright red, bright and dazzling. Judging from the direction that Bewitching and the others were walking, their destination was the red bed. Noticing the bed, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others understood the real situation. If they walked on it, it meant that this illusory realm is really strange. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned. I've entered illusory realms before, but after entering, people were usually still in the same place. However, they actually kept walking forward. This kind of feeling feels like it's real. Hongzhuang, is it possible that something like this happened? Linger thought for a moment before saying, actually, that woman hasn't disappeared. It's just that we can't see her. But they can see her? As soon as this was said, Bailey Hongzhuang and Xiao Suo were both surprised. After thinking about it carefully and connecting it to the reactions of the four people, they suddenly felt that all this was very likely. If that was really the case, then this method was really beyond their understanding. Look, there seems to be something on the bed. Xiao Suo pointed at the bed. There was a storage ring on the bed. Because it was red, no one had noticed it before. Only after taking a closer look did they realize it. Could there be some kind of treasure in this storage ring? Xiao He came out of the contract space. Previously, because Bailey Hongzhuang wanted to go to the bottom of the lake, he was worried that Xiao He wouldn't be able to withstand it, so he recalled her. However, because Bailey Hongzhuang's condition was so terrible that he couldn't even summon her back from the contract space. Now that he had recovered a little, he summoned the little guy back. Seeing the storage ring, Xiao He's eyes lit up. As a money grubber, she would never give up on any possibility of getting rich. The storage ring of an immortal region cultivator. Just thinking about it was an incredible reward. Previously, when they were on the battlefield, they saw so many storage rings, but they couldn't take a single one. This storage ring was here. They might be able to get it. Xiao Suo's eyes were also burning. She was now in urgent need of precious cultivation resources to improve her cultivation. Almost without hesitation, Xiao Suo quickly stepped forward, wanting to grab the storage ring on the bed. She definitely couldn't give Bailey Hongzhuang any chance to surpass her. When she saw Xiao Suo's action, Linger immediately tried to stop her, but Bailey Hongzhuang stopped her. Bailey Hongzhuang shook his head. Let her be. Why? Linger frowned. If this opportunity fell into Xiao Suo's hands, it wouldn't be good for them. You'll know. Hearing this, Xiao He Hongzhuang Ling, Xiao He Hongzhuang, and saw Xiao He Hongzhuang. No matter how hard she tried, it was useless. This situation was no different from when she had tried to escape with Jun Lingxuan. If it's really an inheritance, why would Master let someone who hasn't passed the test get it so easily? Bailey Hongzhuang raised his eyebrows. Based on the current situation, he could determine that only these four men could get the storage ring. They had no hope at all. Xiao Suo had been so excited that she had completely forgotten to think about this point. So that's how it is. Linger understood. I actually panicked and forgot about this. Chapter 5771. Perhaps. Bailey Hongzhuang had a complicated look on her face. She did not know why, but the feeling in her heart grew stronger and stronger. However, no matter how hard she thought about it, she could not figure out what the problem was. What exactly is the problem? She muttered to herself. She felt that if she couldn't figure this out, something bad would definitely happen. Xiao Soa looked rather embarrassed after her failure. She remained silent with a gloomy look on her face, until she noticed that Bewitching and the others were getting closer and closer to the bed. She then spoke up. They're getting closer and closer to the bed. I think you're wrong. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Bewitching. Her clear eyes were filled with determination. How would you know until the very last moment? Just as Bailey Hongzhuang had spoken, Bewitching suddenly stopped in his tracks. The footsteps of the other three were still moving forward. Only Bewitching had stopped. Seeing this, the three of them were shocked. Could it be that their prediction had come true so quickly? They saw Bewitching frowning, as if he was rejecting something. Unfortunately, the three of them could not hear what he was saying. However, they could tell from the determined look on his face. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips slowly curled into a small smile. It seems that her judgment was not wrong. Xiao Soa was shocked. She never thought that things would turn out this way. Previously, when Bewitching had rejected her for Bailey Hongzhuang's sake, she had felt that Bewitching was a hypocrite. However, she could not deny that she had felt a little jealous. At this moment it was not just a little bit of jealousy. It was a crazy jealousy. Why? How could Bewitching be so calm when faced with such a beautiful woman? Is Bailey Hongzhuang really that important to him? For the sake of Bailey Hongzhuang, he was willing to resist all temptations? Xiao Soa had never thought that such a situation would really happen, because such a person had never appeared in her life. Xiao Soa, it seems that your judgment is wrong. A rare smile appeared on Linger's face. Not all men are like what you said. You just haven't met one yet. Xiao Soa, who was already in shock, was also stunned after hearing this. It was as if a sharp knife had pierced her heart. It's just that you haven't met them yet. Yes, it was just that she hadn't met him yet. It turned out that such a man really existed. When she thought of this, she looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with even more resentment. Because Bewitching was her fiancé. She had been engaged since she was a child. But because of a coincidence, he had become Bailey Hongzhuang's man. Noticing the change in Xiao Soa's expression, Bailey Hongzhuang could also guess what she was thinking. However, she was too lazy to care. She checked the other places in the bedchamber, wondering if there were any other treasures here. She walked to the woman's dressing table. She had to admit that everything here was so exquisite and elegant. If this woman really existed, then the man who had hidden her in this golden house must also be an extraordinary beauty. Just from this arrangement alone, she could feel that he had put in a lot of effort. He really loved this woman. However, she did not know why he could not bring her out to meet others. While Bailey Hongzhuang was looking around, Xiao Soa was still lost in her own thoughts. It was obvious that she could not figure it out. Chapter 5772. When Bewitching woke up and looked at the environment in front of him, there was a trace of doubt between his eyebrows. What happened? Did I enter an illusion just now? Linga nodded. That's right. You were the first to break free from the illusion. The other three are still in the illusion. Then what happened to the three of you? Bewitching looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and asked. Bailey Hongzhuang spread out her hands, a helpless look on her face. This illusion only works on men, so the three of us did not enter the illusion at all. I see. Bewitching felt a little strange after he understood. This illusion is really interesting. It only works on men. A beauty like that has endless charm for men, but it's not attractive to women at all. On the contrary, they might want to kill her. Xiao He looked at Ling and the others. Do I make sense? However, no one paid any attention to it. Xiao He pursed her lips and said, Male master, you're quite amazing. You can still be Lu Xiahui under such circumstances, and not be tempted. Linger gave a rare smile. That's true. Look at the three of them. They still can't break free from the illusion. This proves that you're sincere to Hongzhuang. Of course I'm sincere to Hongzhuang. Di Baichen raised his eyebrows and walked to Bailey Hongzhuang's side. Wife, I've rejected all temptations. Shouldn't you give me a reward? Bailey Hongzhuang was not in the mood to joke with Di Baichen at this time. Her expression was serious and serious. Baichen, don't you feel that something's wrong? Hearing this, Di Baichen stopped smiling and looked around carefully. Where do you mean? I don't know either. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head helplessly. It was precisely because she couldn't figure out what the problem was that she was particularly depressed. I have a feeling that only men can enter this illusion. This illusion itself is a little strange. Moreover, the storage ring that appeared there also has an indescribable feeling. Vaguely, she felt that there was some kind of connection between these things. She was actually very close to discovering it, but she just couldn't pierce through this layer of paper. Only then did Di Baichen notice the storage ring on the bed. I also feel that there is something wrong. It's definitely not a good thing. Xiao Shou has already tried before. She couldn't touch the ring at all, Linger added. Xiao Shou's expression revealed a trace of awkwardness, and she remained silent. Baichen, tell us about the situation in the illusion so that we can figure out where the problem lies, Bailey Hongzhuang said in a deep voice. As soon as she said this, Di Baichen's expression changed a little. The look in his eyes changed slightly, and there was a hint of hesitation. Male master, you don't have to worry about it. Based on the situation just now, we know that it must be a very erotic scene. Just tell us directly, Xiao He teased. In response, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others also looked calm. They had already guessed this situation. Baichen, where does she want you to go? Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly asked. Di Baichen turned his gaze to the bed, and suddenly understood a problem in his mind. She wants us to go to that bed. Everyone's eyes were focused on the bed, and the storage ring on it was particularly eye-catching. Chapter 5773. Once the group understood the situation, they felt that the red storage ring's sparkling light had a demonic air to it. Previously, we had not noticed the appearance of this storage ring until you had arrived. Furthermore, only men can approach this place. Women cannot. This proves that this is selective. Her pitch-black phoenix eyes flashed with a wise light. The more Bailey Hongzhuang spoke, the more serious her expression became. He's choosing someone. Possession. Di Baichen's gaze turned cold. This was a powerful cultivator's method. Some cultivators' souls had managed to escape after they had fallen. Furthermore, they had managed to preserve their souls by coincidence. At a time like this, as long as they could find a suitable cultivator and possess their body, it would be a form of rebirth. Aside from this situation, there was another possibility. Some cultivators had reached a certain level of cultivation and could no longer break through their shackles. As their lifespan neared its end, they would choose to use this method to extend their lifespan. Regardless of which method it was undoubtedly extremely cruel. At this moment, everyone understood what was going on. Why had they been so safe ever since they had arrived here? It must be because this cultivator was only left with his soul. Furthermore, no one had entered the ancient battlefield for many years. When a soul has not found a host for a long time, its power would gradually weaken. Hence, when they were unconscious, the soul could not do anything to them. The only way was for them to actively touch the soul's owner's belongings. Only then would the soul be able to seize the opportunity to invade their body. Furthermore, with the addition of this illusion, everything would become very simple. However, any possession would require the cultivator to actively touch his belongings. Otherwise, he would not be able to approach them directly. Actually, as long as there's a storage ring, no one would be able to resist the urge to touch it, right? Xiao He was a little puzzled. Wasn't this a little superfluous? Perhaps this soul has some special fetish. Bailey Hongzhuang shrugged. There's another possibility. The illusion can increase his power. However, this is not the most important thing now. We must not let Yin Che and the others touch this storage ring. Otherwise, based on the strength of their souls, they would not be able to resist this old monster. Her exquisite and dazzling face was filled with anxiety and worry. Once a body has been possessed, even if the physical body remains the same, the soul would have been replaced. It would no longer be a familiar person. After Bailey Hongzhuang analyzed the situation, everyone became nervous. Bai Li Yanqi and the others were already very close to the bed. If they didn't stop them now, it would really be too late. Yanqi, wake up! Bailey Hongzhuang stood in front of Bai Li Yanqi and shook his body, trying to wake him up. No matter what, she couldn't let anything happen to Yanqi. Wenyan, wake up! This is an illusion. Di Baichen walked to Jiang Wenyan's side. In his eyes, Jiang Wenyan was a close friend who he could entrust his life to. At a time like this, he absolutely could not watch Jiang Wenyan die. Xiao Suo also desperately pulled Jun Lingxuan. She didn't know whether Bailey Hongzhuang's analysis was correct or not, but the risk was too terrifying. This situation was even more terrifying than death, because no one knew what the other party would do with their body. Chapter 5774. No matter how hard they tried to wake them up, it was to no avail. This illusory realm was simply too powerful. Their tiny efforts were completely useless. Most importantly, as the group tried to forcefully stop them, a restrictive spell suddenly appeared. They couldn't even touch their bodies. Bang! Bailey Hongzhuang immediately attacked the restrictive spell, only to find that it was completely useless. Her power only caused a few imperceptible ripples on the restrictive spell, before dissipating into nothingness. Damn it! Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but curse. Her icy face was filled with urgency. Yanqi and Jiang Wenyan didn't have anyone they liked. Under these circumstances, it was simply too difficult to resist. Just the thought of watching this happen right before their very eyes was simply unbearable. Ling, and Di Baichen also tried to break the restrictive spell without any hesitation. However, even after combining everyone's strength, it was still to no avail. What do we do now? Ling couldn't help but look at Bai Li Yanqi. Although they had many conflicts on a daily basis, she didn't feel good when she thought about what might happen to this guy next. Bailey Hongzhuang was silent. The other party was very powerful. Under these circumstances, they couldn't do anything at all. In the next instant, Bailey Hongzhuang took out pills and handed them to Ling, and Di Baichen. We can't think of anything for the time being. The only thing we can do is to recover as soon as possible. Di Baichen's expression darkened. He understood what Bailey Hongzhuang meant. If they really couldn't do anything, then the only thing they could do was to recover as soon as possible. Once the other party succeeded in taking over their bodies, they would all be in great danger. Xiaohei, you and Ling, check around to see if there's a way out. Di Baichen, and I will think of a way to wake them up from the illusory realm. All right. Xiaohei and Ling, immediately began to look around. They had originally thought that this was a good place, but now, it seemed to be a completely evil place. Bailey Hongzhuang tried to use the power of light to break the illusion, but her current state was not enough. She had to take out the Holy Maiden Crystal. From the moment the Saintess Crystal appeared, a rich light energy bloomed, illuminating the surroundings even more. The moment Xiao Suo saw the Saintess Crystal, her eyes flashed with a complicated light. She was undoubtedly very familiar with the Saintess Crystal. She had also seen the Saintess Crystal in the past few years. Originally, he thought that the Saintess Crystal would be given to him in the end. Who would have thought that it would fall into the hands of Bailey Hongzhuang? Bailey Hongzhuang channeled her power into the Saintess Crystal, and the Saintess Crystal's light energy became even denser. When the light bloomed, everyone noticed that Bai Li Yanqi and the others' faces flashed with a hint of struggle, as if they were affected by something. Bailey Hongzhuang's face lit up. It seemed that the power of light was indeed helpful in this situation. As long as everyone could wake up from the illusion, the other party would not be able to take over their bodies successfully, and they would be able to leave safely. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief. As long as it was effective, it was fine. Bailey Hongzhuang used the power of light, hoping to completely wake everyone up from the illusion. Just as everyone saw the light, they suddenly realized that Bailey Hongzhuang had stopped moving. Wife, what's wrong? Di Baichen looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with concern. His expression changed when he saw her. Chapter 5775. Wifey, Di Baichen called out again. Bailey Hongzhuang still didn't respond. At this moment, Di Baichen confirmed his guess. Hong Zhuang has also fallen into an illusion. How can this be? Xiao Souo was dumbfounded. They had finally seen the light at the end of the tunnel. If Bailey Hong Zhuang had also fallen into an illusion, they would really be at their wits' end. The owner of this place is more powerful than we thought. It's obvious that he's very skilled in creating illusions. Because there's no way to stop Hong Zhuang, he let her fall into an illusion. Bewitching turned to look at Ling Er. Have you found a way out? Ling Er shook her head. Her pretty face was full of anxiety. No, this place is completely sealed off. We can't find any exit at all. This place is really too strange. When I walked in that direction earlier, I realized that we couldn't go back to where we came from, Xiao He said in a low voice. This place is really strange. Xiao Bai looked around, unwilling to let go of any chance that there might be a trap. It believed that there was definitely a way out. They just hadn't found it yet. Bewitching's expression darkened. It looked like the owner of this place had made up his mind to keep all of them here. Yin Che and the others are getting closer and closer to the bed. We can't stop them. Ling Er's face was pale. This situation was really too despairing. It seemed like there was no way out at all. Xiao Souo also looked like she was about to break down. They might really have to die. At this moment, Bai Li Yin Che suddenly stopped in his tracks. Look, Bai Li Yin Che's expression has changed. Xiao Bai exclaimed as she pointed at him. Hearing this, everyone turned to look. As expected, Bai Li Yin Che didn't continue forward. How is this possible? Xiao Souo was stunned. If she had not seen Jiang Wenyan and Jun Lingxuan still moving forward, she would not have believed that Bai Li Yin Che could break through such an illusion. Bewitching's feelings for Bailey Hong Zhuang were too deep, so he could not be bewitched by other women. But Bai Li Yin Che did not seem to have a sweetheart at all. How did he break the illusion? After Bai Li Yin Che broke out of the illusion, he quickly regained his consciousness. His reaction was the same as Bewitching's. What's going on? Xiao He quickly recounted everything that had happened and asked in confusion. Yin Che, how were you able to resist temptation? Bai Li Yin Che was stunned. He subconsciously glanced at Ling Er, only to discover that Ling Er was also looking at him. His eyes flickered as he said, She's not my type. As soon as he said this, everyone looked doubtful. If he didn't like such a beauty, then what type did he like? No matter what, it's a good thing that you broke the illusion. Bewitching patted Bai Li Yin Che's shoulder. His gaze then landed on Jiang Wenyan. Now I'm just worried about Wenyan. I hope he can break the illusion. Master should be able to break it soon, right? Xiao He asked worriedly. Bewitching nodded slightly. Hong Zhuang is a light attribute cultivator, so it's relatively easy for her to break the illusion. Furthermore, she knows that there's an illusion here, so she should be able to break it soon. With regards to this, he completely believed in Bailey Hong Zhuang's ability. In fact, Ling Er and Bai Li Yin Che also thought so. Master had always been rational, so it was not difficult for him to break the illusion. Chapter 5776. Kacha. With a crisp sound, Bailey Hong Zhuang opened her eyes. The illusion had been completely dispelled. Wife, you're awake? Bewitching immediately noticed Bailey Hong Zhuang's movements. His handsome face was filled with joy. He knew that Hong Zhuang would definitely be able to dispel the illusion. Moreover, with the holy maiden crystal in her hands, the illusion would not affect her much. However, he did not expect her to be so fast. It was beyond his imagination. Bailey Hong Zhuang nodded slightly. It's all thanks to the holy maiden crystal. The illusion did not affect me much. In the next moment, she noticed Bai Li Yin Che and asked in surprise. Bai Li Yin Che, you dispelled the illusion? Bai Li Yin Che smiled faintly. Although it was a little slow, I managed to dispel it in the end. That's good. Bailey Hong Zhuang was relieved and turned to look at Jiang Wenyan and Jun Lingxuan. It would be best if the two of them could dispel the illusion. However, if they could not, it would be troublesome. Perhaps all of them would have to stay here. Bailey Hong Zhuang used the Holy Maiden Crystal once again to display the power of light. Although the effect was not too great, it still had some effect. Just as he was about to sit on the bed, a look of struggle flashed across Jiang Wenyan's face. Then he woke up. Wenyan, come back quickly, Bewitching hurriedly called out. Jiang Wenyan was just rejoicing when he heard Bewitching's words. Although he did not understand what had happened, he immediately rushed back to everyone's side and looked ahead fearfully. What happened? The power of the Holy Maiden Crystal was still being emitted. Everyone noticed that Jun Lingxuan's emotions were also somewhat affected. Lingxuan, wake up quickly, Xiao Suo hurriedly shouted. After seeing that everyone had regained their senses, Xiao Suo became even more anxious. Most importantly, all the men had resisted the temptation. Why was Jun Lingxuan the only exception? This made her feel particularly unhappy, but the most important thing at the moment was Jun Lingxuan's life, so she couldn't care about this for the time being. Jun Lingxuan had already sat on the bed, and his right hand touched the storage ring. Just as he was about to touch the storage ring, the Saintess crystal shone brightly, and Jun Lingxuan was also awakened from the illusion. Jun Lingxuan, don't touch that ring. Bewitching noticed that Jun Lingxuan's expression froze. He knew that Jun Lingxuan had exited the illusion, and quickly reminded him. Ling Sun, come back quickly. There's something wrong with that ring. Xiao Suo also shouted. Jun Lingxuan turned his head, looked at everyone looking at him, and then said to Xiao Suo with a chuckle. So, how can you listen to them and not want such a good treasure? It's very likely that there's a soul there that will take over the body. Don't touch it. Jun Lingxuan looked at the ring in front of him and said with a chuckle. Really? They can also judge this kind of thing? In short, don't touch it no matter what. In her view, the previous reaction of Bailey Hongzhuang and others didn't seem to be fake. What she wanted most was to leave here safely. As for the treasure, she didn't care. Jun Lingxuan's eyes flashed a trace of hesitation. He also felt a little strange about the situation at the moment, but the ring was placed in front of him, which was really too tempting. Chapter 57-77. The two of them charged towards Jun Lingxuan in a flash. However, when they got close, they were suddenly bounced back by an invisible force. When they realized this, everyone was shocked. They were not surprised that such a situation would occur before the illusion was broken. However, now that the illusion has been broken, why was this happening? This sudden turn of events stunned everyone present. This was completely different from the previous situation. How could this be? Linger was puzzled. Countless thoughts flashed through Bailey Hongzhuang's mind. However, the most important thing now was to stop Jun Lingxuan. Jun Lingxuan, don't touch that ring. Otherwise, you'll regret it. Jun Lingxuan chuckled. He did not believe Bailey Hongzhuang's words at all. Don't try to lie to me. Only I've passed the test. This is my inheritance. If you want to take it away from me, there's no way. If Jun Lingxuan still had some doubts before, after seeing that everyone had been blocked, he gained a little more confidence. In the next moment, Jun Lingxuan's hand reached for the storage ring. No! Xiao Suo shouted. However, it was clearly too late. This was because Jun Lingxuan had already touched the ring. After picking up the ring, Jun Lingxuan sneered at everyone. Didn't you want to snatch this storage ring? Stop dreaming. This is my inheritance. Xiao Suo felt relieved after seeing that Jun Lingxuan was fine. She immediately glared at Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Could it be that these guys had been lying to her earlier? Inheritance. Bailey Hongzhuang was surprised. Wasn't it a romantic encounter? How could it be an inheritance? Jiang Wenyan nodded gently. The previous scene was indeed as you had described. However, there was a test after that. When I was undergoing the test, I felt a force, so I retreated and regained my consciousness. There's actually such a change? Linger was stunned. Had they guessed the beginning correctly, but not the end? Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching looked at each other. According to their judgment, there shouldn't be any problems with what they had guessed before. But the situation that happened later was indeed unexpected. Jun Lingxuan sneered, loser. Say Wu, you have been deceived by them. Xiao Suo quickly walked to Jun Lingxuan's side, her face full of disgust. I didn't expect their acting skills to be so good. Bailey Hongzhuang didn't say anything else. Although the situation in front of her was indeed beyond her expectations, this kind of assessment was really too strange. Jun Lingxuan, since you've obtained the inheritance, you should know where the exit is, right? Bewitching turned to look at Jun Lingxuan, only to see a smug look on the latter's face. Jun Lingxuan sneered. I know, but why should I tell you? The heavens are really blind. Xiaobai shook her head and sighed. Such a good opportunity had fallen into Jun Lingxuan's hands. This was too difficult to accept. Wenyan, I've affected you. Bailey Hongzhuang was a little apologetic. If she hadn't affected Jiang Wenyan, perhaps this inheritance would have belonged to Jiang Wenyan. Hearing this, Jiang Wenyan chuckled. If it's meant to be, it will be. If it's not meant to be, don't force it. What's more, your original intention was to save me. I don't think this thing belongs to me. When Bailey Hongzhuang and the others saw this, their hearts were also slightly warm. Jiang Wenyan being able to say such words was really touching. Chapter 57-78. Ah! A shrill scream was heard. Jun Lingxuan, who was originally proud of himself, suddenly widened his eyes, and his expression was extremely ferocious. The sudden change shocked everyone present. They looked at Jun Lingxuan in shock, not knowing what was going on. Ah! Jun Lingxuan clutched his head crazily, the veins on his handsome face bulging. His expression was extremely terrified, and he struggled in pain like a ghost. Lingxuan, what's wrong? Xiao Sou hurriedly grabbed Jun Lingxuan's arm, her delicate face full of panic. What happened? What's wrong with you? However, Jun Lingxuan could not answer at all. He could only struggle in pain. In just a short period of time, he could not even stand. He rolled on the ground in pain, and his expression was horrified and ferocious. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at each other, and their minds confirmed their previous guess. It seems that our judgment may not be wrong. Bailey Hongzhuang looked up at Bewitching with a trace of shock and horror. This powerful cultivator's methods are more brilliant than we thought, Bewitching said in a low voice. As soon as he said this, Jiang Wenyan and the others completely understood. The other party had deliberately set up a trap. First, he used an illusion to directly lure everyone to take the ring. Then, perhaps because of the Saintis crystal's influence, he had no choice but to set up an illusion for the test. This way, they would think that the storage ring was an inheritance, and would not have any scruples when picking it up. As for why Jun Lingxuan was fine when he picked up the ring, it was because his spiritual power had not seeped into the storage ring. Just now he had done so, and the possession had begun. Although everyone knew about the possession, it was the first time they had seen a real possession. Once the other party had carried out the possession, unless a powerful cultivator appeared to wipe out the other party's soul, it was obvious that with their strength, they could not deal with a powerful cultivator from the immortal region. Even if this person had been dead for many years, the power of his soul was still very terrifying. Let's find a way to get out of here. Bewitching's expression turned solemn. Perhaps they still had a chance to leave this place before the other party succeeded in seizing the body. However, if the other party succeeded in seizing the body, it would definitely take everyone's lives. Everything here was set up by this person. Under such circumstances, it was too difficult for them to deal with this person. As for Jun Lingxuan stopping the other party from possessing his body, no one even considered this point. It was impossible. He couldn't possibly succeed. After everyone heard Bewitching's words, they didn't dare to delay any longer. They started to look around for a way to leave this place. Only Xiao Sou sat beside Jun Lingxuan in a panic. She looked at the latter's painful expression, but there was nothing she could do to help. Bailey Hongzhuang, don't you have the Holy Maiden Crystal? Quickly help Ling Sun. Xiao Sou wiped away the tears on her face and rushed to Bailey Hongzhuang. She grabbed her arm tightly with both hands and looked frantic and anxious. Don't even think about running away. Quickly help him. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned and flung Xiao Sou's hand away. Xiao Sou, we've already advised him, but he didn't listen. Have you forgotten how you acted just now? Now you have the nerve to ask me for help. Chapter 57-79. After seeing Xiao Sou's unreasonable appearance, everyone sighed in their hearts. The thickness of this guy's skin was simply amazing. Just a moment ago, she and Jun Lingxuan were still sneering at them, and now she was asking them to do all kinds of things in a commanding tone. Wasn't this a joke? In his situation, outsiders can't save him at all. Aren't you also good at light power? Why don't you try it yourself? Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at Xiao Sou in disgust. If you want to leave here, find the exit, otherwise, wait to be buried with him. So save me. Jun Lingxuan stretched out his hand and looked at Xiao Sou in pain. Xiao Sou quickly rushed to Jun Lingxuan's side. Jun Lingxuan, it will be fine. Get him out of your mind. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked around and found that the situation was just as Linger said before. This was a dead end, and there was no way to leave at all. How can there be no way? Jiang Wenyan looked around in disbelief. Wherever they came to a place, there must be a way. How could there be nothing? This place is really strange. Di Beichen turned his eyes to look at Jun Lingxuan and found that the latter's struggle was getting weaker and weaker. He immediately said in a deep voice, "The other party is about to succeed in seizing the body. If we can't find the exit, it will be really troublesome. Damn it. We actually came to such a broken place." Bai Lianche was annoyed. Judging from the current situation, there was only one person who knew the way to leave here, and that was the owner of this place. Obviously, the other party would not tell them. Xiren and the others wouldn't have encountered such a situation, right? That would be terrible. Bai Lianche couldn't help but think of the situation of Xiren and Shangguan Yingying at that time. They all came here listening to the zither sound. I don't think so. Di Beichen shook his head. The test at the lake is very difficult. If the other party wanted to possess the body, they wouldn't need to spend so much effort. If the requirements are too high, most people won't be able to enter. Naturally, he won't have the chance to possess someone. Then why is it like this here? Linger was puzzled. One was at the pavilion in the middle of the lake, while the other was at the bottom of the lake. There should be some kind of connection between the two. If I'm not wrong, the owner of this place is just using the pavilion as an opportunity, because the pavilion in the middle of the lake was very eye-catching. Any cultivator who came here would definitely think of a way to enter the pavilion. He arranged everything under the lake, so that when cultivators appear, they can be swept into this place. It's much more convenient than other places. There were quite a number of cultivators earlier as well. Why weren't they swept down? Jiang Wenyan asked doubtfully. This did not seem to make sense. Bailey Hongzhuang said, "That's because he has requirements for the host he chooses. If the cultivator's physical quality was too poor, it meant that it would be extremely difficult for him to use this body to raise his cultivation to a higher level. When that happened, he would inevitably have to look for a new body. However, if he could find a good body directly, he wouldn't need to spend so much effort." At this moment, Jun Lingxuan, who was struggling, suddenly stopped. A devilish smile suddenly appeared on his handsome face. Chapter 5780. TSK, you guys are pretty smart. You've already figured everything out in such a short time. Jun Lingxuan looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and the others with a faint smile. Originally, I had my eyes on this body, but it's a pity that even such a woman can't charm you. Following Jun Lingxuan's gaze, everyone realized that the person he had his eyes on was Di Beichen. Di Beichen's expression was slightly cold. Possession was something worse than death. At this moment, everyone understood that Jun Lingxuan was already dead. Even if the person in front of them looked exactly like Jun Lingxuan, he was not the real Jun Lingxuan. Xiao Sou stared blankly at the familiar yet unfamiliar man in front of her. His appearance was still the same as before, and there was no change at all. However, his gaze and demeanor were slightly different. Most importantly, the way he looked at her was no longer as friendly and familiar as before. Her Jun Lingxuan was gone. His soul had been wiped out by this despicable guy in front of her. No! Xiao Sou screamed at the top of her lungs. She fell into paranoia and madness. She pulled Jun Lingxuan's clothes and shook him hysterically. You despicable guy, quickly return Jun Lingxuan. Jun Lingxuan only glanced coldly at Xiao Sou and casually threw her aside. Bang! Xiao Sou's body fell heavily onto the wall and then slid down. Uffed! Spitting out a mouthful of blood, Xiao Sou's expression collapsed and sorrowful. It was not easy for her and Jun Lingxuan's hearts to be connected, but now something like this happened. It was really hard for her to accept. Why was her life so bitter? She regretted it so much. Why didn't she see through everything earlier like Bailey Hongzhuang? Originally, she still had a chance to save everything, but she didn't think about it carefully at all, so she missed the best opportunity. If she had resolutely told Jun Lingxuan to give up instead of coveting such a reward, then this wouldn't have happened. And now, Jun Lingxuan was no longer the original Jun Lingxuan. If he used Jun Lingxuan's identity to do something out of line, what should she do? Jun Lingxuan stood up, shook his head, and stretched his body. A few cracking sounds could be heard, and then a happy smile appeared on his face. Although I didn't get the skin I wanted the most, this one isn't bad either. It's been a long time since I've experienced this feeling. The feeling of being able to move freely is wonderful. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at the guy in front of them cautiously. This guy didn't look like a good person at first glance. His way of doing things was strange. Congratulations, Senior. Bewitching cupped his hands and probed. We promise that we won't spread this matter. We hope that Senior will be magnanimous and let us live. Following Bewitching's words, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at Jun Lingxuan with fear. Although the possibility was small, they still had to give it a try. Hearing this, Jun Lingxuan raised his eyebrows, and his gaze swept over Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Do you think I'm afraid of you spreading the matter of me possessing your body? Who do you think you are? Jun Lingxuan's face turned cold, and his eyes flashed with a bloodthirsty killing intent. You tried to stop me from possessing your body in every way possible, and now you still want to leave here alive. His cold voice carried a boundless chill, making people feel as if they had fallen into an ice cellar. Chapter 5781. At this moment, everyone's heart sank. It seemed that the other party had made up his mind and would not let them go. If they could not find a way to leave this place, death would be the only way out for them. Quick, think of a way to leave. Everyone could not help but take a few steps back. They were afraid that the other party would attack soon. Leave. Jun Lingxuan chuckled. Haven't you already looked for an exit? You can't find the exit at all. You'll all die here. As soon as he finished speaking, Jun Lingxuan immediately attacked everyone. A tyrannical aura could be felt, causing everyone's blood to surge. After the man had taken over Jun Lingxuan's body, his cultivation level was only at the Radiant Moon stage. However, the power of his soul was extremely terrifying. Just by sensing the power of his soul, everyone understood that they were no match for him. This person's power was simply too terrifying. How powerful were the cultivators of the ancient battlefield? Even so, everyone had died here, and their souls had dissipated into nothingness. This person was able to maintain his soul's integrity in such an environment, and was not destroyed even after so many years. His power must have been extremely terrifying when he was alive. Although he was restricted by Jun Lingxuan's body, and could not unleash his full power, his future achievements would definitely be extremely terrifying if he was given some time. At this moment, everyone was not only worried about their own safety, they were even more worried about what kind of changes Jun Lingxuan would bring to the upper realm if he were to leave this place. What would happen to the D family, the Lin family, and the Bailey family? It would be fine if he were to live his own life. However, if he were to return to the Jun family, it would be a huge disaster. Bang! Bewitching and by Li Yanche were defeated in a single blow. Their opponent's spiritual power was too terrifying. Under such pressure, they could not unleash their powers at all. Are we all going to die here? Ling'er revealed her true form and attacked Jun Lingxuan with her dragon tail. Jun Lingxuan grabbed the dragon tail with a disdainful look in his eyes. The dragon clan is indeed not bad. However, after becoming a contract beast, your powers are nothing much. In the blink of an eye, everyone was severely injured. Don't struggle anymore. Isn't it better to die here quietly? If I hadn't brought you here, you would have died already. Jun Lingxuan chuckled. Who are you? Bailey Hongzhuang asked coldly. He chuckled and looked around casually. His face was full of joy. Since you're going to die anyway, I'll tell you. Remember my name, Qing Devil. Qing Devil. After hearing this name, everyone looked at the man in front of them. Devil indeed was somewhat compatible with his appearance. From now on, Jun Lingxuan doesn't exist anymore. Qing Devil laughed. So do you. Bailey Hongzhuang took out the Saintess crystal and injected all her energy into it. At this moment, there was no other way. Most importantly, there was a layer of mysterious restriction in this strange place. She could not bring everyone into the chaos ring. She could take out the items, but she could not leave. Bailey Hongzhuang could not figure it out. The situation gave her an inexplicable sense of familiarity, as if she was about to figure out something. Chapter 5782. This thing is not bad. The next moment, Qing Devil stretched out his hand, intending to grab the Saintess crystal directly. Bailey Hongzhuang held the Saintess crystal tightly. This thing was very important to her, and she couldn't allow it to be taken away by others. However, she also knew that it was too difficult for her to stop Qing Devil with her current strength. However, the situation was a little unexpected. After Qing Devil made his move, the Saintess crystal suddenly gave out a ray of light, which prevented him from taking the thing away. What? Qing Devil uttered in surprise. At the same time, another ray of dazzling light flashed, with a hint of cyan vaguely in this ray. Then, everyone felt that their injuries were healing rapidly under this ray of light. They were seriously injured in the lake. Except for Jun Lingxuan, Xiao Sou, and Jiang Wenyan. The others had only regained their ability to move, but their injuries were still not fully healed. Under the influence of this power, they found that their injuries were healing rapidly. Bailey Hongzhuang was pleasantly surprised. She had always known that the Saintess crystal had healing effects, but she hadn't been able to master the method after studying it for such a long time. She didn't expect that she would find the method to use it in such a critical situation today. After Bewitching and the others recovered from their injuries, their combat strength also improved a lot. Before their injuries were healed, and their opponents were much stronger than them, so they were no match for them at all. Now their injuries were healed. Although the gap between them was still obvious, they were better off now. It's useless, Qing Devil said coldly. As long as you die, this thing will still fall into my hands. Qing Devil didn't turn his eyes, but he noticed that everyone was determined to fight to the death. He shook his head and said, You really won't give up until all hope is gone. Then I'll send you to hell. As soon as he finished his words, Qing Devil suddenly attacked with his right hand. His first target was Bailey Hongzhuang. Seeing this, Bewitching rushed up quickly and stood in front of Bailey Hongzhuang. Qing Devil snorted. You really love each other, but you can only be lovers in hell. Bang bang bang. Bewitching faced the Qing Devil head-on. Even though Jun Lingxuan had just broken through to the Radiant Moon tier, the strength that the Qing Devil displayed was far greater than that. Bai Li Yanche and the others didn't hesitate either. If they didn't try their best to stall the Qing Devil, they would all die here once they were defeated one by one. While attacking Qing Devil, Bailey Hongzhuang was thinking about how to get out of here. It was too difficult to defeat the Qing Devil together. Running away was the only way to survive. Boom! Qing Devil's power suddenly exploded. His mind power spread out, and everyone was sent flying. Bang bang! One by one, the figures smashed into the wall and fell to the ground, heavily injured. Idiot! Qing Devil looked down at them condescendingly and stretched his body. I'll give you a quick death. If you don't want it, I can only let you know what pain is. In the next moment, Qing Devil stretched out his hand and grasped Bailey Hongzhuang's neck with an invisible force. Let me go. Bailey Hongzhuang was suspended in the air. No matter how hard she struggled, she couldn't get rid of the force at all. Bewitching rushed up quickly, but he couldn't touch the force at all. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang struggling in pain, his heart was bleeding. Chapter 5783. At this moment, Bewitching recalled the scene when he was practicing his sword on the river. He thought of Zhongli Mu's indomitable and boundless sword qi. He suddenly waved the sharp sword in his hand and gathered all his strength at the tip of the sword. He put aside all distracting thoughts and focused all his energy on the sharp sword. Almost at this moment, everyone was acutely aware that Bewitching's energy had reached an unprecedented peak. Even Qing Devil, who had never taken Bewitching seriously, couldn't help but change his expression at this moment. because he felt a sense of threat from this sword. How could this be? From Jun Lingxuan's soul, Qing Devil knew that these people were from the upper world, and this kind of sword qi should only appear in the immortal realm. How could the man in front of him reach such a level without any teacher? Swoosh! A bright and dazzling sword qi shot out from the tip of Bewitching's sword. Even though they were far away, everyone could feel the terrifying sword qi. It was extremely sharp and indomitable. Even though the sharp sword wasn't pointed at them, they felt that their skin was about to split under the influence of the sword qi. Bai Lianche and the others looked at Bewitching in amazement. They didn't expect Bewitching to be able to use such a sword move. This kind of momentum and power, even though it was not as powerful as Zhongli Mu's, was still outstanding. Qing Devil had to dodge the sword qi, so he loosened his control over Bai Hongzhuang. Bai Hongzhuang fell to the ground, gasping for breath. If it wasn't for Bai Chen's help, she really wouldn't have been able to keep her life. When she looked up again, she found a wound on Qing Devil's face. Blood was flowing out from the wound, and his expression became more and more sinister. I didn't expect you to be so powerful that you could hurt me. Qing Devil looked at Bewitching coldly. I never show mercy to those who hurt my face. You're dead meat. His pitch-black eyes filled with endless killing intent and threat. Azure Demon's figure flashed, rushing towards Bai Hongzhuang. This kind of killing intent was far stronger than before. Noticing this, Bai Hongzhuang and the others were also in a panic. They all picked up their swords and tried to use the swordsmanship that they had been practicing for a while. Although it was only one move, it was extremely powerful. After Jiang Wenyan saw Bewitching display that move, his heart was full of shock. If this move was aimed at him, then he would not be able to avoid it at all. What he did not expect was that Bai Hongzhuang and the others had actually learned this trick. This was too unexpected. It seemed that Bai Hongzhuang and the others were practicing together. The Azure Demon naturally did not dare to be so careless after suffering once. He would not be able to accept it if his face was hurt again. Then they found that their bodies were confined by a powerful force, and they couldn't move at all. Qing Devil grabbed Bewitching's neck tightly. His gloomy eyes were like glaciers in the North Pole. I want you to die miserably. Bewitching tried his best to resist. His opponent's spiritual strength was too terrifying. He felt that the Azure Demon was probably in existence on the same level as Senior Yu. The moment Bewitching was controlled, Bai Hongzhuang's heart tightened. An indescribable fear spread in her heart. This feeling was even more terrifying than when she was facing death. She couldn't accept Bewitching dying in front of her. Chapter 5784. I can't die here. This thought kept echoing in Bai Hongzhuang's mind. Get out of here. The only way is to get out of here. Everyone attacked Qing Devil. Even if they knew that they couldn't change the outcome, they had to do it. The atmosphere became tragic. Everyone was ready to risk their lives. They didn't want to be born in the same year and month, but they wanted to die in the same year and month. It was not the worst ending if they could die here together. Bang! Bai Hongzhuang flew backward again and spat out a mouthful of blood uncontrollably. Her pretty face was as pale as a piece of paper. The despair from the bottom of her heart made her collapse. The people in front of her were the people she cherished the most. Were they all going to die here today? She couldn't help but look at the chaos ring in her hand. Why couldn't it bring them in this time? Why? Suddenly, Bai Hongzhuang's eyes fell on the red zither in front of her. Something seemed to break in her mind. She suddenly found a way to solve the problem that she couldn't figure out. That's right. That's the problem. Bai Hongzhuang's eyes lit up. She finally understood everything. It wasn't that the chaos ring lost its effect, but that she was in the dreamland now. They had been in the dreamland since they entered here. It wasn't just one dreamland. It was the overlapping of many dreamlands. Until now, they were still in the dreamland and hadn't really gone out. That was why the chaos ring didn't respond. The zither was the most likely to break the dreamland, because it was the sound of the zither that attracted them here. No matter how real the dreamland was, there would be a way to break it. In the next moment, Bai Hongzhuang dragged her seriously injured body and rushed to the zither when Qing Devil wasn't paying attention to her. After noticing Bai Hongzhuang's movement, Qing Devil became anxious. He rushed to Bailey Hongzhuang directly, leaving Di Beichen and the others behind. At the same time, Di Beichen and the others finally noticed Bailey Hongzhuang's actions. For a moment, they didn't even understand the use of the zither. Bailey Hongzhuang could feel the terrifying attack behind her. But she didn't turn around to look, even if the attack was about to land on her. There was only one thought in her mind, and that was to smash this zither. Only by smashing the zither would they be able to leave this huge illusion. Even if she died, it was still good that someone was still alive. Crack! With a crisp sound, the zither fell to the ground and broke into pieces. Almost at the same time that the zither was broken, everyone felt that the surrounding environment was rapidly collapsing. It was no longer the same as before. Bailey Hongzhuang closed her eyes, as if she had already accepted her fate. The sky was blue, and white clouds floated in the sky. Bailey Hongzhuang did not feel the terrifying attack. Instead, she fell into a warm embrace. It was Di Beichen. Just from that familiar aura, she knew that it was Di Beichen. Oh my god. Am I hallucinating? We're out. Jiang Wenyan looked at the strange and wonderful environment around him in shock. This sudden change made him feel incredulous. 1 second ago, they were still in the shadow of death. How could they be safe now? Hearing that, Bailey Hongzhuang opened her eyes. Looking at the blue sky, white clouds, and green grass in front of her, she had never felt so happy before. Chapter 5785. Honey, we're all right. Di Beichen looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a smile. His handsome face was full of tenderness. You saved all of us. Bai Li Yanche and the others came forward. At this moment, everyone was immersed in the joy of surviving a disaster. If Bailey Hongzhuang hadn't broken the zither at the last moment, they would have gone to the netherworld. It's really hard to imagine. I thought I was going to die. Jiang Wenyan couldn't hide the surprise on his face. What happened today was really unbelievable. Hongzhuang, you saved me twice. If Bailey Hongzhuang hadn't stopped him with the help of the Saintess crystal, he probably wouldn't have been able to resist the temptation of the storage ring. Once he touched it, he would be the one who was possessed. Thinking back, he felt that it was really terrible. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Fortunately, my judgment was right. Otherwise, I would inevitably feel guilty. Jiang Wenyan waved his hand. I really owe it to you this time. Speaking of which, you are really amazing. You can even make such a judgment. If Jun Lingxuan didn't believe you, he wouldn't be in such a situation now. Hearing this, everyone shook their heads and sighed. Jun Lingxuan had always been their enemy. They originally wanted to find an opportunity to kill him. However, they didn't expect that Jun Lingxuan would disappear in such a way. Sister, how did you think of breaking the zither to save us? Until now, Bai Li Yanche was still a little confused. He didn't understand what had happened before. Everyone's eyes fell on Bailey Hongzhuang. They were also very curious about this. In fact, when the Qing Devil appeared, I always felt that there was something wrong that we ignored. At the critical moment, I knew that there was only one way to survive, and that was to leave here. I thought that the Qing Devil was just a soul, but the place where we were was extremely beautiful. Logically speaking, it was impossible for a soul to do this. In addition, we've seen that beauty before, but then that beauty appeared in your illusion. This doesn't make sense in itself. The only explanation was that we were already in an illusion from the moment we entered the sleeping chamber. And the illusion that appeared after that was the superposition of several illusions. The Qing Devil is really good at illusions. Even with the Saintess crystal, I was still troubled for such a long time. After listening to the explanation, everyone finally understood what was going on. This kind of illusion technique really made people gasp in amazement, and was too shocking. Now that I have figured it out, I feel that I was too stupid before. How could I not figure out such a simple thing? Qing Devil is really too clever. Jiang Wenyan sighed. His opponent's methods were truly impossible to guard against. Because it was too real. He never thought that he had entered an illusion from the very beginning. No matter what, we managed to keep our lives. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded with a smile. Although they had experienced a lot of risks, their lives were saved in the end. If they hadn't experienced this, Perhaps they wouldn't have been able to return to the shore at the bottom of the lake. Overall, they had escaped danger. Master, why is Xiao Soa missing? Xiao He suddenly asked in confusion. Chapter 5786. Previously, everyone was immersed in joy. Besides, Xiao Soa was not their friend, so they did not notice her disappearance. Now that Xiao He mentioned it, they realized that Xiao Soa did not come out with them. Logically speaking, everyone should have come out when the illusion is broken. Why didn't Xiao Soa come out? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. She did not have a good impression of Xiao Soa. It was not a bad thing for her to disappear. However, the current situation was indeed unexpected. Before I left, I heard Xiao Soa's scream, but I didn't take it to heart. Did Nan Wei fail to escape at the last moment? Linga asked. That's possible. At that time, Xiao Soa was the closest to Qing Devil. Bai Lianche said thoughtfully. Forget it. Anyway, even if Xiao Soa comes out alive, she can't escape death. Why should we care? Di Beichen looked calm. The conflict between them and Xiao Soa and Jun Lingxuan was getting worse and worse. It had already reached the point where only one of them could survive. Although the incident this time was somewhat out of their expectations, it was undeniable that the two of them had completely disappeared. Why didn't Qing Devil come out? Xiaobai was a little confused. Since it was an illusion, they might be together after it was broken. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head slightly. I don't know, but I think this illusion should be very important to him. When I threw the zither, he looked very nervous. Maybe he was also affected by the destruction of the illusion. That's why he didn't come out. Regarding this, no one asked any more questions. The Azure Fiend's illusions were beyond their reach. It would be impossible for them to find out the reason behind it. Now that Jun Lingxuan and Xiao Soa are no longer a threat, a more difficult Qing Devil has appeared. I don't think the situation is optimistic. Bai Lianche said in a low voice with a hint of worry on his handsome face. Just by looking at Qing Devil's appearance, one could tell that this guy was definitely not a low-key person. Azure Demon. Just based on this name alone, he probably wasn't a nobody in the immortal region. If he went to the immortal realm, he would definitely turn the situation upside down. Hearing Bai Lianche's words, everyone's heart sank. This was the problem they were most worried about now. Qing Devil must be very angry that they escaped this time. If they met again, he would try his best to kill them. They escaped this time because the illusion was destroyed. But if they met him again, it would be very difficult for them to escape. In fact, Qing Devil's strength is not very strong now. After all, he has just occupied Jun Lingxuan's body and needs some time to adapt. What's more, although his soul strength is powerful, his cultivation is based on Jun Lingxuan's cultivation. It would be great if someone could kill Azure Demon at this moment. Linger's pretty face had a trace of alienation and indifference as usual. Once he develops, it will be really troublesome. Now we don't know where Qing Devil is. The only thing we can do is to pray that he will die soon. Jiang Wenyan shrugged helplessly. Just the thought of facing the Azure Demon again made him feel uncomfortable all over. Forget it. Let's take one step at a time. Di Beichen waved his hand to let everyone relax. Chapter 5787. Everyone was exhausted from the previous exchange of blows. Sitting on the green grass, the warm sunlight shone on their bodies, dispelling the cold from before. Bailey Hongzhuang took out the Holy Maiden crystal. In the previous critical moment, she had accidentally discovered the method to use the Holy Maiden crystal's healing ability. She finally understood why she had not succeeded before. First, it was because there was no one around her who was injured when she tried. And second, it was because she needed to chant to resonate with the Holy Maiden crystal. Previously, when she had used the power of light to awaken everyone from the illusion, she had used the chant to amplify the effects of the power of light. At this time, she found that there was a connection between herself and the Holy Maiden crystal that was not there before. Thinking about it, Bailey Hongzhuang began to chant. After everyone heard the chant, they all turned to look at Bailey Hongzhuang and immediately found that a rich light energy had wrapped around everyone. The faint green light entered everyone's body, causing their injuries to heal quickly. They had already experienced this feeling once, but when they experienced it again, they could not help but feel that it was magical. The Holy Maiden Crystal is really worthy of being a sacred object of the Holy Assembly. This healing ability is really amazing. Even pills cannot compare to it. Jiang Wenyan looked at the dazzling Holy Maiden Crystal in amazement. Hong Zhuang, you really are the real Holy Maiden of Light. I heard that the Holy Assembly had tried many methods in the past, but they were still unable to stimulate the healing ability of the Holy Maiden Crystal. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly, and her beautiful face became even more beautiful. I have also studied it for a long time, but I have not been able to figure it out. This time, it can be considered a blessing in disguise. Sister, now that we have the Holy Maiden Crystal, we do not need to waste time healing. Bai Li Yanche smiled brightly, his smile as bright as the moon. Bailey Hongzhuang blinked. There are many benefits to following me. With their injuries healed, everyone's spirits were also lifted, and they stood up one by one to continue on their journey. It is best for us to meet up with everyone as soon as possible and tell everyone about Jun Lingxuan, so that everyone can be mentally prepared. Di Beichen's expression was solemn. With the enmity between them, if the practitioners of the Di family and the Lin family saw Jun Lingxuan alone, they might take the opportunity to attack him. However, with Qing Devil's means, the disciples of the family were no match for him. Therefore, they had to tell everyone as soon as possible. They could not let everyone die. Everyone nodded. This was indeed the most urgent matter. It wasn't easy to reunite with everyone, but now we're separated again in the blink of an eye. Bailey Yanche smiled helplessly. But at least we're together. Everyone will be surprised when they see us. When we suddenly disappeared, everyone probably thought we were dead. Now that we reappear, it will indeed be surprising. Jiang Wenyan chuckled. It is quite interesting to think about it. Linger saw that Bailey Yanche and Jiang Wenyan were in a good mood and felt a little helpless. The two of you are really open-minded. We don't even know where we are right now. It'll be even harder for us to meet up with everyone. This depends on Wenyan. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows and looked at Jiang Wenyan mysteriously. Jiang Wenyan's smile was tinged with a trace of complacency, and he nodded. Chapter 5788. At times like this, we need a map. Jiang Wenyan smiled proudly. Di Beichen was shocked. You have a map of the ancient battlefield? How is that possible? Bai Li Yanche was dumbfounded. It was the first time that the ancient battlefield had appeared in the upper realm. Logically speaking, no one should know the layout of the environment, let alone have a precise map. I was lucky to get it by chance. Jiang Wenyan took out the map. However, the map only shows the general situation. We need to know more about the surroundings before we can determine where we are. Di Beichen took the map and looked at it carefully. He noticed that the pavilion in the middle of the lake was marked on the map. He was even more surprised. It really is a map of the ancient battlefield. Do you think I would lie to you? Jiang Wenyan chuckled. We are now on the grassland. There are no obvious features around us, so we need to continue to move forward to determine our location. It's much easier with this map. Let's go. Di Beichen relaxed a lot. In the huge ancient battlefield, they were like headless flies when they didn't know where they were. However, everything was much easier with the map. As the primordial battlefield was just too big, they only confirmed their location after walking for a day and a night. Jiang Wenyan looked at the map in his hand and said, We are now quite a distance away from the pavilion in the middle of the lake. I'm afraid it will take some time to walk back. Most importantly, I feel that even if we return to the pavilion in the middle of the lake now, everyone won't be there anymore. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. They had spent a lot of time healing their injuries. Moreover, the inheritance of the pavilion in the middle of the lake had fallen into the hands of Xiren and Yingying. At that time, she noticed that after Xiren and Yingying arrived at the pavilion in the middle of the lake, the zither music had disappeared. As such, it was even more impossible for the other cultivators to go to the pavilion in the middle of the lake. Since that's the case, Let's go to the nearest marked spot on the map, Bailey Hongzhuang said. She had seen the map and knew that there were other marked places besides the pavilion in the middle of the lake. Obviously, these places were very special. Jiang Wenyan looked at the map in his hand and said, "This is the closest place to us at the moment. But are these red stones drawn on the map?" Bewitching also looked at the mark on the map. It is indeed a red stone. Could it be that this stone is a treasure? Red stone? Bailey Hongzhuang was slightly stunned. She quickly walked to Bewitching's side. Her eyes lit up when she saw the red stone on the map. She was no stranger to it. "I think this red stone might be something special there, just like the pavilion in the middle of the lake. We'll know when we get there." Bai Li Yanche looked indifferent. After seeing the situation of the pavilion in the middle of the lake, he felt that there were treasures here, but it was extremely difficult to obtain them. "Does it look like this?" Bailey Hongzhuang took out a red spirit stone and showed it to everyone. Everyone was attracted by Bailey Hongzhuang's voice. After noticing the item in her hand, everyone was stunned. Chapter 5789. Hongzhuang, what's that in your hand? Jiang Wenyan looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in surprise. He was the first to meet up with Bailey Hongzhuang. This was not something that they had seen together. "This is the only thing I found." Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. "Earlier, after I left the fog, I kept moving forward. Later on, I saw this red stone somewhere. There were quite a few of them. I realized that other than the difference in color, these things are even more powerful than high-grade spirit stones. So Xiao He and I collected all the blood spirit stones we saw." With a wave of her hand, Bailey Hongzhuang tossed a blood spirit stone to each of them. She smiled and said, "Take a look. What do you think?" Everyone held the blood spirit stone. The fiery red color reflected a dazzling light under the sunlight. It was as magnificent as a gemstone, and extremely beautiful. Under the beautiful color, it contained an incomparably pure energy. After sensing this, everyone couldn't help but be pleasantly surprised. To them, the effects of high-grade spirit stones were already extremely good. It was just that high-grade spirit stones were too few in number. They couldn't always use high-grade spirit stones for cultivation. However, the energy in the blood spirit stone in front of them was even purer and denser than that of high-grade spirit stones. If they could use the blood spirit stone to cultivate, their cultivation speed would definitely be even faster. "This is a blood spirit stone." Ling, who had been silent all this time, suddenly spoke up. Hearing this, everyone turned to look at her. Ling was the only one among them who knew about the immortal region. However, because her memories had been sealed, there were many things that she could not recall. However, she seemed to remember this blood spirit stone. Blood spirit stones are of a higher grade than high-grade spirit stones. They are very helpful to cultivators. Ling did not continue speaking. According to her vague impression, the cultivators of the immortal region seemed to use them for cultivation. After receiving Linger's affirmation, Bailey Hongzhuang was completely relieved. Although the color of the spirit stone was a little flirtatious, it was indeed a first-class treasure. "Then let's not hesitate anymore. Let's hurry over there. If we're late, we might lose the treasure," Xiao He quickly said. As a money grubber, she was the most anxious at this moment. Although he and his master had picked up some earlier, there was no such thing as too much good stuff. Seeing Xiao He's anxious look, everyone could not help but chuckle, but their footsteps unconsciously quickened. No one was willing to miss out on such a cultivation resource. "Master, if Qing Devil really used Jun Lingshuan's body to return to the Jun family and took the opportunity to deal with the D family, is it possible for us to ask Granny Hua for help?" Xiao He asked with concern. Even it could imagine how troublesome the situation was. At that time, if they really couldn't suppress it, perhaps only the people from the immortal realm would be able to stop all of this. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyelids drooped slightly, and her eyes sank into darkness. She fell silent for a moment, then said, "I'm afraid it'll be a little difficult." Bewitching nodded. "According to our daily interactions, Granny Hua and the others take great care of us. However, based on their character of staying in the abandoned immortal forest, They probably don't want to care about other things. They don't want to get involved too much in the affairs of the immortal region. They only want to live a carefree life, not to mention coming to the upper realm to help solve problems. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Beichen. On this point, she and Di Beichen had the same opinion. Previously, when Granny Hua told her about some mysterious things, she knew that Granny Hua's way of thinking was very open-minded. It was far beyond the imagination of ordinary people. Chapter 5790. Even though they didn't want this to happen, sometimes fate couldn't be changed. Perhaps it was God's arrangement. Many times, an upheaval or catastrophe would cause chaos in the world, and people would be plunged into misery and suffering. However, the whole continent could also become stronger after such a catastrophe. Before such a thing happened, no one knew whether the final result would be good or bad. She had heard about such a situation from her mother-in-law before. At that time, she was very shocked. However, when she thought about it carefully, she couldn't deny that there was something wrong with it. Don't worry so much. Perhaps the situation isn't that bad. Di Beichen smiled warmly, and the haze in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes instantly dispersed. Although Qing Devil is great, he was defeated by me before, and has stayed on the ancient battlefield for many years. Luck may not always be on his side. We'll find a solution. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. After experiencing the incident at the pavilion in the middle of the lake, she felt that there was always a way out. You may feel that you are at a dead end now, but you will never know if other possibilities will appear until the last moment. Therefore, you must never give up. Everyone quickly rushed towards the location marked with the blood spirit stone. Although the distance marked on the map wasn't very far, it was still far away. After rushing for several days, they still hadn't arrived. The ancient battlefield is really terrifying. It's a pity that we didn't get any information about the ancient battlefield from Qing Devil. Bai Lianche sighed. Ling glanced at Bai Lianche. In that situation, everyone wanted to survive. Who would want to know more? Di Beichen. Suddenly, a voice full of surprise was heard. Di Beichen turned his head to the right, and saw Morong Jing, and the cultivators from his family walking toward them. It's really you. After confirming that he wasn't mistaken, Morong Jing sped up and rushed over. His face was filled with disbelief and joy. Morong. Di Beichen also showed a comfortable smile. Although Morong Jing was his elder brother's best friend, their relationship was also very good after several contacts. It's great to see you all. Morong Jing's gaze swept over Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Then he hugged Di Beichen and said, I've heard people say that you've fallen at the pavilion in the middle of the lake. I've been sad for a long time, because I always felt that with your strength, this shouldn't have happened. Now it seems that I was right. You guys are really lucky. Di Beichen could feel Morong Jing's heartfelt joy, and his heart felt very warm. We were lucky. Otherwise we would have lost our lives. Morong Jing then looked at Jiang Wenyan. Wenyan, you're really hanging out with Beichen and the rest now. Of course. Jiang Wenyan raised his eyebrows. If you're interested, you can join us. You're really calm. Morong Jing chuckled. You don't know how sad your family was when they found out about your accident. You'd better find your team as soon as possible, so that they can rest assured. Chapter 5791. Looking at Jiang Wenyan's helpless look, Morong Jing chuckled. It seems that the place you came from is really deserted. However, this also proves that we are fated to meet. Indeed. Jiang Wenyan nodded. It's good to meet you. Morong, have you seen my big brother? Di Beichen asked. He had seen many cultivators when he was at the pavilion in the middle of the lake. However, he had not heard any news about his big brother until now. He did not know how his big brother was doing. No. Morong Jing shook his head. Morong Jing shook his head. I met Lin Taxing a few days ago. The cultivators of your family were with him. I also asked him about Xiaofeng, but so far no one seems to have seen him. Hearing this, Di Beichen frowned slightly. It had been a while since they entered the ancient battlefield. Although the area was very large, most of the cultivators had already met each other. It was really strange that there was no news about his big brother for so long. Noticing Di Beichen's worried look, Morong Jing comforted him. Don't think too much. Xiaofeng will be fine. The area here is too large. Maybe he had some fortuitous encounter. I hope so. The haze in Di Beichen's eyes dissipated. He was also very confident in his big brother's ability. Now that Jun Lingxuan had fallen, and Xiao Shou had died, there should be no problem if there were no accidents. Morong, I have to tell you a piece of shocking news. What news? Morong Jing raised his eyebrows. Apart from your safe return, what other news can surprise me? Jun Lingxuan has been possessed. As soon as these words came out, Morong Jing and the cultivators behind him were all stunned. Their mouths were wide open as they looked at Di Beichen in disbelief. This news was really too shocking. Di Beichen, did I hear wrong? Morong Jing was dumbfounded. He has been possessed. Who has possessed him? I seem to have heard that Jun Lingxuan and Xiao Shou disappeared with you. It seems that something terrible has happened. The possessor is called Qing Devil. He is extremely powerful. He must have been trapped in the ancient battlefield for a long time, and is good at illusions. Originally, he intended to kill all of us, but fortunately, Hong Zhuang broke his illusion at the last moment and escaped. That's right. That fellow's strength is truly terrifying. We feel that we should inform everyone of this news as soon as possible. We must be careful if we encounter him, Jiang Wenyan added. Morong Jing remained in a daze for a long time after hearing everyone's words. Possession, this was something they all knew. But in reality, the probability of it happening was not high. The same body but a different soul. Just the thought of it was enough to make one's hair stand on end. If this didn't come from your mouths, but from someone else, I definitely wouldn't believe it. Morong Jing sighed. He did not have a good impression of Jun Lingxuan, but it was too hard to accept that he had ended up like this. Let alone you, even we find it hard to believe. However, it happened right in front of our eyes. Did Xiao Shou escape? Did you kill her or let her go? Morong Jing asked doubtfully. Bailey Hongzhuang spread her hands. This is very strange. After breaking the illusion, all of us left except for Xiao Shou. Perhaps she was captured by Qing Devil. Chapter 5792. According to what you said, the Qing Devil is so powerful and has taken over Jun Lingxuan's body. Won't it be troublesome if he uses Jun Lingxuan's identity to stir up trouble? Morong Jing quickly thought of the trouble. This was not just a family's disaster, but the entire upper realm's trouble. That's what we're most worried about now. But we don't have a solution for now. Bai Li Yanche said helplessly. We don't even know where he is now. We'll have to be careful if we meet him again. Morong Jing's face darkened. The other party would definitely not let Di Beichen and the others off. If he deliberately hid it, coupled with the power of the Jun family and the Xiao family, it would be really troublesome. Di Beichen nodded slightly. We can only take one step at a time. I hope we can improve our cultivation as soon as possible. I think it's difficult. Morong Jing shook his head and sighed. This ancient battlefield is really strange. Along the way, apart from hearing that Siren and Yingying obtained the inheritance of the pavilion in the middle of the lake, I didn't hear about anyone else's gains. This place is so big. We might end up with nothing when we get out. Morong Jing was not the only one. The cultivators of the Morong family also looked dejected. It was not easy to come out and gain experience. If they did not gain anything, they might as well stay in the family and cultivate. Di Beichen smiled faintly. Let's go. I'll take you to a good place. Morong Jing was surprised. What good place? Why are you asking so many questions? You'll know when we get there. Jiang Wenyan smiled proudly. Morong Jing looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and the other's secretive looks, and could not help but feel even more curious. However, he also knew that Di Beichen and the others would not lie to him. Since they said it was a good place, there must be something to look forward to. The cultivators of the Morong family followed closely behind Morong Jing. Since they were walking aimlessly, it was naturally better to have someone to guide them. Di Beichen and the others walked in the direction indicated on the map. They had been on the road for a few days, and now they were much closer. After another 3 days, They stopped when they saw the iconic tree in front of them. That's right. This should be the place. Bewitching stopped and turned to look at Jiang Wenyan. Jiang Wenyan nodded slightly. He had the same idea as Bewitching. Morongjing looked at Bewitching and Jiang Wenyan's determined appearance, and then looked around. This was a completely open space. There was nothing here. What kind of good place was this? Stop keeping us in suspense. What's so special about this place? Yes. This was also based on what Bailey Hongzhuang had said earlier. This place was flat ground. Other than being underground, they could not think of any other possibility. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others did not doubt the situation on the map. They used their mental power to check the ground. However, after a quick inspection, everyone discovered something different. This place is so strange. It's difficult to use mental power to penetrate the ground, Bai Lianche said in surprise. Chapter 5793. Now that they were standing on this piece of land, their mental power could only reach a depth of about 2 meters. They could not see anything further. This was too strange. There's something strange about this place. Morongjing looked surprised. If he had some doubts before, he was now certain. Since there was something strange about this place, there must be some treasure in this place. Otherwise, such a strange situation would not occur. After everyone tried and found that the situation was similar, Linger said, "It seems that we can only dig." Dig. Bai Lianche was stunned. This place was so big that no one knew where the blood spirit stone was. Although there were many of them here, it would be troublesome if they had to dig one by one. Other than this, can you think of any other way? Linger asked. Bai Lianche shook his head. Other than this seemingly stupid method, he could not think of any other way. Everyone looked at each other and could only start digging. However, with their status, they would not normally put digging tools in their storage rings. Hence, the scene became very interesting. Everyone did not dig randomly. Instead, they dug 3 feet into the ground. However, after digging a large hole, they helplessly found that they did not find anything. It can't be that there's nothing here, right? Xiao He could not help but ask. Everyone had been digging for so long. In any case, there should be a consolation prize, right? If there was nothing, it would be too depressing. It can't be. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned. According to their judgment, this map could not be fake. The situation marked on it could not be wrong. Could it be that we're using the wrong method? Bai Lianche asked. Why don't we each try our luck and find a place to dig? Everyone looked at each other. At this time, they might really have to try their luck. I really don't understand. What are you trying to dig here? Morongjing led his people and dug here for half a day. Until now, he still did not know what Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were trying to dig here. Wife. Bewitching turned to look at Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang immediately understood and threw a blood spirit stone at him. Bewitching raised his hand to catch the blood spirit stone and handed it to Morongjing. This is what we want to dig up. Morongjing looked at the blood spirit stone in his hand. This was the first time he had seen such a thing. However, after sensing it carefully, he discovered that this thing was different from the rest. What a rich origin chi. Is this a spirit stone? Morongjing asked in surprise. Bewitching nodded. That's right, this is a blood spirit stone. Its value is even higher than a high-grade spirit stone. You're saying that there are blood spirit stones underground. That should be the case. However, it seems that obtaining this blood spirit stone won't be easy. Bewitching spread out his hands. He hadn't expected such a situation. If it was said that Morongjing had a lazy attitude when he was digging earlier, then at this moment, it was as if he had been injected with chicken blood. A high-grade spirit stone was already an extremely precious cultivation resource. Now that a blood spirit stone, which was even more precious than a high-grade spirit stone, had appeared, how could he miss the opportunity in front of him? Chapter 5794. They had stayed in the ancient battlefield for so long, but had not gained anything. They did not even have a target. Now they had finally found their target. Even if they had to dig 3 feet into the ground, they had to dig up this treasure. This was a real reward. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others could not help but laugh when they noticed the changes in Morong Jing's group. Sure enough, they would only work hard when they saw the benefits. Morong Jing felt a little embarrassed when he noticed everyone's gaze. He smiled sheepishly and said, "If you had told me earlier, wouldn't I have put in more effort?" "Haha, don't try to hide it. We've seen through you." Jiang Wenyan sneered without giving him any face. Everyone found a place to start digging. However, the result was still very frustrating. After digging for a long time, they did not find any trace of the blood spirit stone. How could this be? Bailey Hongzhuang could not understand. If there really was a blood spirit stone here, with so many of them digging, one of them should have found it, right? How could they not have found anything? Bewitching also stopped digging. This situation might be a little different from what they had predicted. If they did not understand this point, they were afraid that no matter how long they dug, it would be useless. "Wife, what was the situation when you found the blood spirit stone? Tell me more about it." As Bewitching spoke, everyone looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. They were also curious about the situation. "When I found the blood spirit stone, it was very easy. It was exposed on the ground, and part of it was buried under the ground. Xiao He and I just dug up a little and picked it up. The environment here is different from the ancient battlefield. The soil there does not have such characteristics." Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Xiao He. Xiao He also nodded. "That is indeed the case. It was very easy back then. How could it be as difficult as it is now? Perhaps it's a problem with this area," Bewitching said in a low voice. His eyes were filled with thoughts. After spending so much time digging, the sun had gradually set below the horizon, and night had begun to fall. Everyone sat on the ground dejectedly, trying to figure out where the problem had come from. At this moment, another team arrived at this area. Bewitching's eyes lit up when he saw the leader of the team, and a faint smile appeared on his lips. "Wenyan, the person in the lead seems to be Huang Futing of the Huangfu clan, right?" Morong Jing used his shoulder to nudge Jiang Wenyan as he spoke in a low voice. Jiang Wenyan nodded slightly. "That's right, it's him. I heard that he entered the ancient battlefield as a mercenary this time. The dignified young master of the Huangfu clan has actually fallen to such a state. It really makes one sigh. In the past, I didn't think it was a big deal. After all, the dark element has always been disliked by others. However, ever since I saw what the D family did to Beichen, I feel that the Huangfu family's decision back then was a little too much. So what if it was of the dark attribute? Why do you have to force him to this extent? The competition between the Huangfu clan's disciples is even more intense than what we've seen. Everyone kicks a man who's down, so it's not strange for such a situation to occur." After listening to the conversation between the two, Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Huang Futing with a complicated gaze. Chapter 5795. Only by establishing the Dark Sacred Assembly could the dark power be accepted by everyone. Only in this way would the cultivators of the dark attribute not be discriminated against. Not every family would be as tolerant as the D family. Many cultivators did nothing wrong, and were treated like this just because they awakened the wrong attribute. Thinking about it, this was indeed ridiculous, but it was true. After seeing Bewitching and the others, Huang Futing could not hide the surprise on his face. Previously, after hearing that Bewitching had fallen, all of them had fallen into endless grief. Bewitching had given them hope back then. Because of Bewitching, they had a direction to work towards. Although everyone had worked hard to improve their cultivation during this period of time, their hearts were unprecedentedly calm. This was because they were eagerly looking forward to the day when everyone would take them seriously. After living in the dark for too long, they only hoped that one day they would be taken seriously by everyone. Bewitching had taught them the cultivation method of the dark attribute, which was why they were where they were now. However, if Bewitching had fallen, then it seemed that they would return to their previous dark and hopeless lives, which was something they absolutely did not want to see. Even if they had only known Bewitching and Bailey Hongzhuang for a short time, these two people occupied an extremely important position in their hearts. For the past few days, Everyone had been unable to sleep or eat well, and they were always worried about this problem. It was not until this moment that everyone was completely relieved. It turned out that the news was not true. Bewitching and Bailey Hongzhuang were still safe and sound. Noticing the expressions of Huang Futing and the others, Bewitching had already guessed their thoughts. He chuckled and said, "Are you surprised that we are still alive?" Huang Futing originally thought that with so many people present, he did not dare to acknowledge Bewitching. At this moment, after hearing Bewitching's words, he also relaxed. "When we heard the news that you had fallen, everyone was unwilling to believe it. Until now, everyone still hasn't calmed down. It's great to see that you're all fine." Not only Huang Futing, but the cultivators behind him nodded as well. Although they didn't say anything, their joy and excitement could be seen from their expressions. Jiang Wenyan and Morong Jing were a little surprised when they saw how close Bewitching and Huang Futing were. They didn't expect the two to be friends. Although Bewitching hasn't been in the upper realm for long, he is quite popular, Jiang Wenyan said with a smile. Morong Jing nodded. With Bewitching's character, many people are willing to make friends with him. This is not strange. Perhaps it's because they're both of the dark attribute that they hit it off so well. Jiang Wenyan discovered that the relationship between Bewitching and Huang Futing was not ordinary. Logically speaking, the two of them did not have many opportunities to interact on a daily basis, so the possibility of this was very small. The only explanation was that the two of them had the same attributes, so they had a lot in common. "Do you need me to introduce you?" Bewitching looked at Jiang Wenyan and Morong Jing, then looked at Huang Futing. As far as he knew, Huang Futing was a rather famous figure in the upper realm. Perhaps he already knew Jiang Wenyan and Morong Jing. Hearing this, Huang Futing and Jiang Wenyan looked at each other and smiled. They said together, "No need, we've met before." Chapter 5796. As Bewitching's voice fell, the smiles on the three people's lips deepened. "It's been a long time, Brother Huangfu." Jiang Wenyan smiled. "After you left the Huangfu family, I haven't seen you for many years." Huang Futing smiled faintly. It had been so long, and he had already accepted it. "Although I didn't change my surname, I have nothing to do with the Huangfu family anymore." Jiang Wenyan nodded. "I understand. I'm very happy to meet the new you, Brother Huangfu." "I'm very happy too." Huang Futing glanced at Bewitching, and a sense of gratitude welled up in his heart. Ever since he left the Huangfu family, he had completely said goodbye to his previous identity. However, in everyone's eyes, he was just a joke. All these years, he had deliberately avoided people he knew in the past, because he didn't want to see those mocking gazes. However, because of Bewitching's introduction just now, he and Jiang Wenyan were once again on equal footing. He hadn't felt this way for a long time. In the past, he didn't understand why Bewitching and Jiang Wenyan had only been in the upper realm for such a short time. Even if they had the support of the D family, it was strange that they could gain a foothold so quickly. However, after interacting with them, he completely understood that the current Bewitching was an existence he was willing to sacrifice his life for. To them, being on equal footing was more important than anything else. "What are you doing here?" Huang Futing also noticed the holes around Bewitching and the others and asked doubtfully. "You'll have to ask Bewitching about that," Morong Jing joked. Bewitching glanced helplessly at Morong Jing and said, "According to the information we've gathered, there should be a blood spirit stone buried here. But we haven't found it after digging for a long time." "Oh." Huang Futing was a little surprised. Bailey Hongzhuang handed over the blood spirit stone. "This is a blood spirit stone. Any cultivator would be able to sense the power of this blood spirit stone just by sensing it. Such a treasure is buried underground?" Huang Futing was surprised. If it was really like this, then this was a great opportunity. "Originally, we were very confident, but now, we don't know." Bailey Hongzhuang looked around. She couldn't figure out what had gone wrong. Logically speaking, for this place to be so strange, there must be something special about it. Otherwise, it would be too strange. "Why don't we give it a try as well?" Huang Futing looked at the people behind him and asked. Following that, Bewitching and the others watched as Huang Futing's group began to dig around. However, the results were the same as theirs. After a short moment, Huang Futing and the others stopped as well, and they started to wonder exactly what was wrong with this matter. As the night deepened, everyone decided to stay here and rest for the night. Although the various situations in the ancient battlefield were a little strange, at least they didn't have to worry about any danger. Therefore, they could rest at ease at night. However, just as everyone was resting peacefully, Xiao Hei's voice suddenly rang out. Look, there seems to be something moving underground. As soon as he said that, everyone opened their eyes and looked at the ground. Chapter 5797. Suddenly, everyone became spirited. Judging from the range and volume of the fluctuation, it seemed to be similar to the blood spirit stone. Could it be that the thing moving now is the blood spirit stone? This thing has intelligence and can actually run. Bailey Yanche revealed a look of surprise. If that was really the case, then everything made sense. No matter how they dug during the day, they couldn't find it. It might be in a very deep place, and would only appear on the surface at night. It's very possible. Let's take a look and find out. Bewitching stood up. This situation also piqued his interest, and he felt that it was very interesting. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others also moved. This kind of strange scene was not usually seen, so they naturally wanted to see what was going on. Looking at the undulating ground in front of them, Bailey Hongzhuang pierced the ground with her sword, and found that a blood spirit stone had appeared very close to it. Taking out the blood spirit stone, Bailey Hongzhuang said with a smile, "That's right, this undulating thing is the blood spirit stone." At the same time, everyone also took the blood spirit stones from the ground. I didn't expect this place to be so magical. The blood spirit stones can move at night. Jiang Wenyan had a look of amazement on his face. This kind of situation was simply unimaginable on a normal day. But now it was really happening. Bewitching, you really didn't lie to me. This is really a good place. Morong Jing looked at the blood spirit stone in his hand, his face full of smiles. This kind of treasure was really helpful for cultivation. Judging from the undulating ground, the number of blood spirit stones here was also very shocking. Bewitching chuckled. Of course I wouldn't lie to you. Everyone should seize this opportunity. Hearing this, everyone smiled and responded. This was a good opportunity, and everyone hated that they couldn't grow more hands. Xiao Hei, Xiao Bai and Xiao Xuanzi all moved together. They couldn't let go of such a good opportunity. For a moment, everyone was busy grabbing the blood spirit stones. During this process, everyone discovered that the blood spirit stones that were active on the surface were the easiest to grab. The other blood spirit stones that were less active were located further down and were more troublesome to grab. Thus, everyone prioritized picking the best ones. In the process, if they were not careful, they would bump into each other. Situations where their heads bumped into each other also happened from time to time, causing everyone to laugh. Regardless of whether it was the cultivators from the Morong clan or the mercenaries with the dark attribute, everyone sighed in their hearts. If it were any other ordinary person, they wouldn't even mention such an opportunity. But who wouldn't want to keep it for themselves when they encountered a treasure? However, Bewitching and the others seemed to have never thought of this problem, and this point was deeply engraved in their hearts. When the first ray of sunlight appeared, everyone realized that the ground had stopped moving and returned to its original state. At this moment, everyone came to a realization. These spirit stones are really interesting. They only float around at night. Who knows where they have gone during the day? Huang Futing said with a smile. Everyone's harvest last night was not bad. It just so happens that we can rest during the day. Otherwise, if it was like this for the whole day, we would be exhausted to death. Bai Lianche said with a smile. Although it looked very simple, it was actually quite tiring after a whole night. Normally, everyone was not good at digging. After digging for a whole day, they really felt sore all over when they stood up. Chapter 5798. Fortunately, we didn't come to the ancient battlefield. Otherwise, we would have been frightened and not surprised at all. It would have been better to leave directly after cultivating outside. Hearing Jiang Wenyan's words, everyone nodded. They all had the same opinion on this point. Along the way, no one had gained anything. However, the blood spirit stone alone was enough to soothe everyone's gloominess. Huang Futing, let me tell you a piece of news. Jun Ling's son has been possessed by an expert from the ancient battlefield. Di Beichen put away his joking expression and said seriously. Hearing this, Huang Futing was slightly stunned. Possessed? Yes, we saw it with our own eyes. Di Beichen nodded. We tried to dissuade him at that time, but he didn't believe us at all. Bai Li Yinche shrugged and spread his hands. There are still people alive on the ancient battlefield? Huang Futing found it hard to believe. He had seen the battlefield, and the scene was really bloody and terrifying. Such a tragic scene, such a terrifying murderous aura. He had always thought that everyone was dead. He didn't expect to suddenly hear such news. This was even more shocking than Jun Lingxuan being possessed. Di Beichen nodded and said worriedly. In short, this may be a big problem. We have to be mentally prepared. Huang Futing also understood Di Beichen's meaning. Originally, he was very happy to know that Jun Lingxuan was dead. After all, the Jun family had always been enemies with the Di family. The death of the Jun family's young master was definitely good news to them. However, after being possessed, the problem left behind by this method of death was obviously not small. After we leave here, we will try our best to inform others of this news, so that everyone can be mentally prepared. I understand. In the next 2 days, everyone collected blood spirit stones at night and rested during the day. During this process, they increasingly felt that this land was magical. It was clearly a scene of devastation at night, but everything returned to normal during the day, as if nothing had happened. Although it had only been 3 days, everyone's harvest was extremely rich. In addition to the blood spirit stones, everyone had another harvest, and that was that their movement speed had increased. Because they had to grab the blood spirit stones as soon as they saw them, everyone moved as fast as they could. If they were even a little slower, they would miss this opportunity. In 3 days, everyone had practiced the ability to see and move quickly. At least, their speed was much faster than usual. Just when everyone thought that this could continue, the appearance of 2 teams broke the original silence. When everyone saw the Nangong family's team slowly pass by, they felt very uneasy. Di Beichen. Nangong Yuqing looked at Di Beichen not far away, his eyebrows slightly raised, his eyes filled with a trace of surprise. Long time no see, Nangong Yuqing. Listening to the other party's understatement, Nangong Yuqing couldn't help but think back to the time when he brought Nangong Xiaolong to apologize. It was a stain that he would never forget for a long time. Thinking of this, Nangong Yuqing's expression changed slightly. I didn't expect you to be so lucky. It seems that you are surprised that we are still alive. Di Beichen smiled. Chapter 5799. Listening to Nangong Yuqing's impolite words, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were too lazy to pay attention to him. In any case, there was nothing good between the 2 sides. However, from Nangong Yuqing's calm expression, they could see that what he said was true. He had indeed guessed that they were still alive. I heard that Jun Lingxuan disappeared with you. Since you are here, does that mean that Jun Lingxuan and Xiao Sou are already dead? Nangong Yuqing looked at Di Beichen. There was a great hatred between him and Di Beichen. Moreover, because of Nangong Xiaolong, he had lost face in front of Di Beichen. However, since Xiao Sou and Jun Lingxuan got engaged, the hatred between him and Di Beichen was not so deep. If it weren't for Xiao Sou, he wouldn't have offended Di Beichen. Now that Xiao Sou had completely rejected him, why should he still be obsessed with these things? Of course, he still didn't like him, but he wasn't as angry as before. Xiao Sou doesn't know, but Jun Lingxuan is indeed dead. Di Beichen said frankly. Oh, Nangong Yuqing chuckled. You are really calm. Aren't you afraid that I will spread the news and the Jun family will come to make trouble for you? Before Jun Lingxuan died, the conflict between me and his family never stopped. Besides, I wasn't the one who killed him. Hearing Di Beichen's words, Nangong Yuqing was slightly surprised. If you didn't kill him, who else could it be? You can only blame Jun Lingxuan for being greedy. He didn't listen to our advice and insisted on taking the storage ring, Jiang Wenyan added. Nangong Yuqing glanced at Jiang Wenyan. Ever since the last time he met Jiang Wenyan in the piercing Wen city, he knew that Jiang Wenyan had become very close to Di Beichen and the others. As for the news of Jiang Wenyan, Di Beichen, and the others disappearing at the bottom of the lake, he had also heard about it. Most importantly, he had encountered the Jiang family's team not long ago. It seemed that everyone was extremely saddened by the news of their young master's death. Of course, he also understood why Jiang Wenyan stood out at this time. He wanted to prove that everything Di Beichen said was true. What does the storage ring have to do with his death? Nangong Yuqing was somewhat puzzled. He had also seen a storage ring during the battle, but as soon as he approached it, he was deterred by the terrifying aura it exuded and didn't dare try to take it. He believed that Jun Lingxuan was not a fool. After feeling such a terrifying aura, wouldn't he be courting death if he still tried to take it? That storage ring is different from the storage rings you have seen before. There is a soul inside. Jun Lingxuan's body has been possessed. Even though Di Beichen didn't have a good impression of Nangong Yuqing, he didn't intend to hide this matter. No one knew what Qing Devil would do with Jun Lingxuan's body. It was better to say it early, so that everyone would be prepared. Nangong Yuqing's reaction was the same as Morong Jing and Huang Futing's. His face was filled with disbelief at first, but after noticing the seriousness on Nangong Yuqing's face, he understood that it was not a joke. Jun Lingxuan is too pitiful. He was actually possessed. Chapter 5800. If all of this is true, then you're really lucky. The other party didn't kill you as well? Nangong Yuqing raised his eyebrows. To be able to possess Jun Lingxuan's body, it was clear that the other party was much stronger than Jun Lingxuan. It was even possible that the other party was the soul of a powerhouse from the ancient battlefield. In the face of such a powerhouse, Di Beichen and the others shouldn't have been able to fight back. It was too strange that they were able to escape. Hearing Nangong Yuqing's words, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were surprised. It seemed that Nangong Yuqing wasn't a brainless person. However, they didn't care whether Nangong Yuqing believed them or not, so they didn't intend to explain. The only reason they warned them was because they were cultivators from the upper realm. As for what the other party would do, it had nothing to do with them. Nangong Yuqing was waiting for Di Beichen's explanation, but when he saw that Di Beichen and the others didn't seem to have anything to say, he felt a burst of depression. Come on, can't you explain everything? It's so depressing to only explain half of it. Of course, he wouldn't admit it. The cultivators from the Nangong family looked at each other in dismay. This news was too sudden. Up until now, they had never seen a cultivator being possessed. For a moment, they were looking forward to seeing Jun Lingxuan. If he was really possessed, they didn't know what would happen. After seeing that Di Beichen and the others didn't intend to pay attention to him, Nangong Yuqing licked his lips and suddenly said, "What are you doing here? We're tired from walking. Can't we rest here for a while?" Bailey Hongzhuang coldly said. Nangong Yuqing looked at the scorching sun above his head and suspiciously looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. He didn't know why, but he felt that this reason was a bit far-fetched. Under the scorching sun, even he felt extremely hot. If he really wanted to rest, he would have found a place with trees to sit and rest. Why would he stay here? When Morong Jing and the others noticed the suspicion in Nangong Yuqing's eyes, their hearts skipped a beat. It wasn't easy for them to discover the secret of this place, but they didn't want to share it with Nangong Yuqing. This guy really likes to be suspicious. Bai Li Yanche rolled his eyes. We just happened to run into other people here, so we chatted for a while. With that, Bai Li Yanche said, "Let's go. It's quite hot here." Everyone naturally understood what Bai Li Yanche meant. They nodded and turned to walk forward. Seeing the other party turn around and leave without looking back, Nangong Yuqing's expression became even more awkward. Was he really thinking too much? However, just as everyone was about to turn around and leave, they suddenly heard other movements coming from behind. Brother Huangfu, long time no see. Nangong Yuqing smiled as he looked at the group behind him. His voice was filled with friendliness and joy. As soon as his voice fell, Huang Futing's body stiffened, and he stopped in his tracks. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others also looked at Huang Futing. Could it really be such a coincidence? Jiang Wenyan and Morong Jing turned around to look. As expected, the Huangfu clan's group appeared not far behind them. Chapter 5801. That's right, it's them, Jiang Wenyan replied. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang sighed. She really didn't want to see anyone, but they just had to appear. From Huang Futing's point of view, it was obvious that he didn't want to see anyone from the Huangfu clan. They had been so cruel to him, without the slightest bit of kinship or concern. In addition, he wasn't living a glorious life, so he naturally didn't want to see them. The darkness attribute cultivators all looked at Huang Futing worriedly. No matter how carefree he usually appeared, they all knew that things weren't as simple as they seemed on the surface. Just like themselves, they also felt the same way about their former family members. However, they were better off than Huang Futing. Huang Futing was the one who had truly fallen from the heavens to such a state. Although there was a huge psychological gap between them, they definitely couldn't compare to Huang Futing. Brother Nangong, it's indeed been a long time. Being able to meet this time proves that we're fated. The young leader of the Nangong clan smiled as he looked at Nangong Yuqing. From his amiable attitude, it was obvious that the two of them had a good relationship. It's been a few years since we last met. I originally thought that you would also appear in the Immortal Cloud Secret Realm, but I didn't expect to not see you. Huang Fugang smiled faintly. Previously, I was tied up with other matters, so I didn't have time to go to the Immortal Cloud Secret Realm. In fact, I've always regretted it. You're too modest. Do you think I don't know you? The Huangfu clan is so powerful, and your experience is not something we can compare to. Nangong Yuqing smiled. Bewitching, let's go. Huang Futing, who had been silent all this time, spoke up. Just by hearing the familiar voice, he already knew who it was. However, he really didn't want to face the other party right now. Bewitching nodded. All right. With tacit understanding, everyone quickened their pace. However, just as they were about to leave, a voice rang out from behind them. Big brother, is that you? Huang Futing moved even faster, and the other party rushed out of the Huangfu clan's group, without any hesitation, and quickly caught up to Huang Futing. After seeing the familiar face, the man's face was filled with indescribable excitement. He grabbed Huang Futing's arm tightly. Big brother, it's really you. Great, I finally found you. Looking at the familiar face in front of him, Huang Futing couldn't control his emotions. Huang Futing fell into silence as he faced the other party's sincere gaze. Fourth brother, he is no longer a member of our Huangfu clan. How can you still call him big brother? Huang Fugang's displeased voice came from behind with a hint of reprimand and admonishment. Come back quickly. Don't talk to this person who appeared out of nowhere. Huang Fuchen glared at Huang Fugang. Second brother, how can you be so cold-blooded? I don't care about that. He's my big brother. Even if he's chased out of the family, he's still the big brother I respect the most. This has never changed from the beginning to the end. Fourth brother, you. Huang Fugang became angrier and angrier at Huang Fuchen's rude rebuke. Back then, this was a decision made by the clan. How could you violate the clan's rules? What do you mean by clan rules? My big brother has never done anything wrong. Those punishments are also groundless accusations. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.